cold, guys, so I'm gonna keep my throat hydrated. Oh man, turnover. It kind of goes away. The part of the year's gone. Well, I mean, I'll say a few things, and then I'll say a few things, and then we can get into as much as we can get into. But I'd like to start off once again. It's a strange time, you know, with everything we've gone through and everything so many people have gone through. But pausing to remember those we lost on Monday night is first and foremost. You know, when you start and you think about a game, and I must have said this 100 times, you know, it's Michigan week, it's a big week. And probably to their staff too. I know Joanne sent me a text, and all of his assistants did, and you know, it makes you realize that games are important, but not as important as some things. We're continuing to pray for the individuals at the hospital that I got a chance to go visit. I'm thrilled to hear that one of them's been upgraded to stable, because a lot of them were in serious shape. But I'd like today's focus to be on Saturday's game the best it can. I do understand, though, that you have questions regarding a few days, the last few days, as it relates to not only my team, so I'll touch on it briefly. I think our department did an incredible job. Ellen Heller, right after it happened, early the next morning we had a Zoom call, and many people were on the call besides all the head coaches. We had professional mental health professionals, as well as our athletic director, and the leadership was incredible. We got a chance to talk to some people, and that's where I realized that, you know, everybody handles things differently, and of course I want everybody to handle things the same, and it just doesn't work that way. So everybody's focus was on safety and mental health of the student athletes, everybody's. And we agreed whether we play or not. You know, we knew we weren't playing Wednesday, but we also didn't know when we'd be playing again or when we could practice. You know, and as we looked at it and discussing this with our team, it was clear they wanted to get back on the floor. And I think if you think back, that through many tragedies, sometimes sports can relift you a little bit. The problem is the players. Yesterday's practice, which we did practice, was awful. It was not very good, and to no blame for anybody. We just didn't have it. And we talked about it after. As I said, we've had a lot of help from some mental health professionals that have really helped me. But they felt that if they played, it would help not only themselves but the team, but maybe the campus heal a little better. And so we agreed that that would be our battle cry. We also know everybody grieves different, and everybody processes trauma in a million different ways. I've gone through so many different highs and lows that I too am learning new things. But like I said last night, whatever you're feeling is valid. You know, I wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago. I guess I'm maturing with age. I have a better understanding right now that not everybody processes things the same way, whether you're a fan, a coach, a media member, a player, or just a student. And that leads us to where we are now. It's prepping for Michigan. So before opening questions, again, I know you have a job to do, and I've learned that from my boss, and for the most part, appreciate the job you have to do, and I respect it. You've shown me and my players this week, you've been great. I'm sure y'all wanted a million questions, and I know you have questions, so I'll do my best to answer a couple of those. But like I said, I'd like to spend most of my time on Michigan, but I will, as I always do, I'll answer the questions you got, and we'll try to do a better job of helping you, helping me, helping the people that are reading your papers or your blogs or whatever they are. But in the Michigan week, you got two teams that have played pretty similar if you really look at it. We both had our highs and we both have had our lows, as the whole league has. On the last game we played, it was a game that was very defensive oriented. The first half, I thought both teams, the first 10 minutes were unbelievable defensively or awfully poor offensively, and it could have been a combination of both. We got a little lead before half and branched it out most of the second half to 10 or 12, and then at the end did not take care of business like we should have, and they bounced back, and it was a game right down to the wire, which it should be. I think Dickerson is a load. He's always been a load, a very good player. I think Jet Howard is a big key for them. I think when he was hurt for that one game, they weren't the same. I personally think he's leading candidate for Freshman of the Year. He seems to do his job, take care of business, doesn't say a word to anybody. I've been very impressed with him. I got a chance to spend a little time with him at Media Day. So he is a big key, and of course Kobe, who we recruited too, and Kobe's having a great year, but the second half in the last 6 games, he's even stepped it up a notch. He's shooting the ball pretty well, but he's become a complete player. He's got a lot of assists. He's got a lot of rebounds. He's probably their best defensive player, and I think has been, lived up to his billing when he came out of high school. As far as the rest of them go, they'll play some different people. Williams has been hurt. I think he missed 1 game. I think he'll be back. Reed, the other freshman, which could give you problems because they'll play too big at some times, which could be a problem for us or it could be a problem for them, depending. But all in all, they are, I think, very good, really improved defensively. I thought this year's team was better than last year's team defensively. And I think we both have had our moments offensively, but that'll be a big key to the game. So I'll open it up to some questions and be more than happy to answer.
How seriously did you and your athletic superiors discuss not playing this game, if at all?
I never discussed it. I'm sure the ADs and presidents might have, but life it's funny. I mean, no matter who we are, whether it's our parents, whether it's somebody else, as they say, the world keeps turning. And one way to get back to some normalcy is to make things more normal. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of things in the last 10 years that have given us a blueprint for this, whether it be 9/11 way back, or whether it be some other things that have happened, where I think you've just got to figure out a way to honor the people that were senselessly killed, and yet our way of being able to do that is to play the game. And there'll be nobody forgotten. We talked about it every morning in our meetings. We talked about it after practice today. So I don't know, you'd have to ask Alan that. But for me, I knew we weren't playing Wednesday, but I assumed we were playing Saturday.
Not to elaborate too much on last night, but you've been on campus for a lot of celebrations, Final Fours, championships, even football celebrations. How difficult was that for you to see your people mourning and crying, holding back tears over something so out of their control?
Well, there were a lot that I saw that weren't holding back tears, and I'm honored that you'd say my people. I guess that means you've been here a long time. But I was overwhelmed, to be honest with you. Standing there looking out over that crowd, what a tribute to those three students. What a tribute to Michigan State in a way, what a tribute to their families that people cared enough, the flowers, the different things that went on. I was, you're right, I've been through some celebrations, I've been through some tough times, but that was one of the more moving moments in my career. It really was.
You mentioned last night about Stephen being near that. I guess, can you elaborate on that a little bit and maybe take off the coach hat and talk as a father about what that must have been like?
You know, he went over to pick up his girlfriend. She had a class. I was supposed to get out around 8:30, 8:45. Went there a little early over to the Union, and as he pulled up, I mean, police came running at him to get out of there and do this and that. And when he told me that, when he came here, and I had my radio show that night, or it probably would have been working, but he came here, and I told him to barricade himself somewhere on campus. And he called us from one of the boxes in Breslin, and thank God we had a couple of our GAs and video guys working, and at 9:30 or so he got a hold of them. They all came down to the weight room and the visitors or the alumni locker room, and they stayed in there till after 1 o'clock at night. And I kept saying, I'm gonna go pick him up, and they said, no, you can't do that. And that was a little difficult, but you know, I'm in no way, shape, or form feeling like some of those parents where kids have been shot or killed or were right there in the classroom when he came in, but it was fairly traumatizing for Stephen. I thought he was okay, and then yesterday he had some moments and some people really helped him out, so I was greatly appreciative of that. And you know, what do you say? I think the greatest thing I've learned, guys, gals, is everybody handles trauma differently. I just, you know, some things might be water off a duck's back that happened to you, and it seemed like a little thing to someone else, they're a big thing to you, and vice versa. And that is, of all the things I learned, I appreciate our mental health people more than ever on that Zoom call on Tuesday morning. And give Ellen Heller credit, give Chief Lynch credit. The job those people did in a short period of time was unbelievable. And I think Stephen got good advice, and he did what probably 20,000 students on campus did. They listened to what they were supposed to do. Now, that doesn't happen with 18 to 22-year-olds, and they did it in an incredible way, and probably, maybe even saved other lives, but helped other people. So it was impressive. The way a lot of people handled it. And me, I just sat home and watched the news and listened on the radio and tried to call people, and it was a scary time for everybody.
Tom, today, Michigan put some stuff out about what they're planning to do Saturday in terms of shirts they're wearing, moment of silence, fight, you know, playing the alumni, all those things. In a rivalry that probably admittedly has gotten a little on the nasty side the last few years, can something like this and the support they've shown, maybe, you talked about the sports helping,
Yeah.
could this be a moment where some of that kind of comes together a little better?
Yeah, you know, like I said, I mean, Saudi Washington, a good friend, Phil Martelli, and you know, Juwan. He had a game that night he was in Tuesday. He was in Madison, and they all texted and called, That was greatly appreciated, and I heard there might be some things. And, you know, like I tell you guys all the time, you can hate your rivals. That's the way it's supposed to be, as long as you respect them. And I think that anything they do, we do, shows respect. Respect for a lot of things. Respect for schools, respect for human beings. So I don't know everything that's going to go on, and it's going to be an emotional day, I'm sure, for everybody. But from what I heard, I greatly appreciated the support that I've gotten from the University of Michigan, the texts I've gotten from people, the way their university has stood up. Does it help? Of course it helps. You know, hopefully I think what you realize is everybody's in the same position in these jobs right now. The world's gone mad a little bit. And what can happen here can happen at Northern Michigan, can happen at University of Michigan, can happen at Eastern Michigan, can happen every and anywhere. And so I promise you this, whatever they're feeling, it would be reciprocated if the tables were turned.
So you mentioned, you know, the things that this program's had to navigate and, you know, moments of trauma, I think specifically the records that have been, like, you know, what have you kind of gleaned about, and I don't know if it's consciously or subconsciously changes how you coach guys and things like that, but dealing with players going through these emotional waves in the aftermath, not only the first game, but the game after that, and things like that you can use or that you've learned.
You know, I do think of my own son, or I think of my seniors, and the last 5-6 years, there's been a lot of things that have happened, and I feel bad that, you know, you go to college it's supposed to be a safe place, safe haven, and you have COVID. You know, I think my kid went to 1 semester of classes in his first 3 years, and who knows how these kids are going to go to class now. They're going to be going to class like this. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. And I'm sure, again, it'll affect everyone differently. But how do we cope with it? You know, it's the only thing that I struggled with. Thank God for Lonnie Rosen. He's the best and the best. And he talks about you got to still move forward, but you got to find a way to make tough love to help them get through it, but understand that everybody's not going to get through it the same way. And that's difficult, you know. I think I've changed a lot in the last 5-6 years, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. I still think this day and age, and one of the problems with our society, if you ask me, is there's no accountability and there's no discipline. It's a free-for-all. My humble opinion, since a lot of you are calling this, you can have an opinion. Once in a while, I can have an opinion. And I don't know. I've definitely changed some. I vowed this year I was going to get back to normal. So I got 3 technicals. It's good. It's a good thing, I guess. But I also, now we've been hit with something else that we have to adjust to. I think the great part is when you go through something that's affects so many people, sometimes the bond you get with your players even gets closer, you know. We talked a lot about sticking together, helping one another. I mean, I had a meeting with my managers, I had a meeting with my players, I had a meeting with my secretaries, I had a meeting with everybody in the building on things that, how we could help, you know. I mean, I offered a couple managers to stay at my house because their roommates left. You know, it's times like this that I think communication, which I think we lack a lot of these days, that's what I keep saying, and Lonnie agreed with that, and yet some other people say, well, everybody has a different way of dealing with it. Some want to just go in a room and not talk to anybody. That's the one that I struggle with, if you want the truth. I try to encourage that not to be, but I don't demand it. I just try to encourage it, and that's the best I can do.
Wasn't me. Forgive me, Tom, I'm gonna get a touch personal leading into this question. Last night, my wife and I watched video of your speech, and she's not a Spartan, but has, I guess, become one of my Parkson because our son goes to school here and was barricaded in like thousands of other students and faculty and folks in the larger Spartan community. And your words last night, watching her reaction, and then kind of getting the chance to see the reaction on social media afterwards of what your speech did. My question is, do you, first of all, have a sense of what that meant last night, and did you feel, heading into that, a responsibility to the power of your position, your platform, your words?
No, on the last part, I'm honored that I was chosen to be able to speak. I really was. That's a privilege. And what we said is, we went through during the day and what do you want to cover and what do you want to say, and I didn't think it was anything earth-shattering. I just thought, for the most part, it was me, and I've been through so many things here, so many, and I've been through some things where I've seen people rally together to support, and yet I wanted to somehow say, let's all get together, and but that sounded like a rah-rah speech. I couldn't do that. And I really struggled, if you want the truth. But if people were happy, not a social media guy, so I can't say that I followed anything or watched anything, but if it helped people, then it was a good thing, and I appreciate that. But it is, when you've been somewhere this long and you have ownership in the place, that's the ultimate, that's what you want from your teams. You want your players to take ownership. Last night, what I learned? There were freshmen there, sophomores, juniors, seniors, grad students. There were alums all around the world that probably watched that vigil. And I think they all took ownership. They showed they had ownership. They really did. It was cold. A lot of you were there. It was cold. I didn't see many people move. That's the ultimate compliment to every student and every living alum. And I appreciated that. I just kept saying up there to the different speakers, can you believe this? What a tribute to those students, unfortunately, but what a tribute, and to their families. So I didn't know everything, but I'm glad that if somebody felt better, thought it was right, I appreciate that.
Coach, can you talk about what's been inspiring to you throughout your career here, and again, during this time of tragedy, as you attend the vigil, and you hear from rivals and also students, players,
Yeah.
others, where do you draw inspiration as you look around during this extremely difficult time, a time like no other?
Well, one of the first guys that called me was Seth Greenberg, and if you remember, he was the basketball coach at Virginia Tech when 31, 33 students were killed by a gunman, and he helped me, and then I got calls from Baylor and UCLA and Mike Krzyzewski, and I mean, just person after person, because I think they all know that, unfortunately, this has to change. This is becoming too common. I never watch the news. You know, I think I was a little kid in Walter Cronkite. My dad watched the news every night, and I'd say, what do I want to know about the Vietnam War? You know, it was always negative, negative, negative. And then I catch myself every morning waking up, and I throw on this one certain channel, and it gives me a quick rundown, so I'm a little more educated than I used to be. And as I look at it, it seems like everything, you know, with the guns, with the wars, with the things that happen every day in the schools. I said to somebody, boy, you're supposed to go to college, and you're supposed to, it's the greatest time in your life. I mean, I don't know how some of you were in college. None of you would have your jobs probably if there were those cameras back then, but we all understand that. But I think in college, I say every time I talk to Mariucci, let's go back and live in that trailer, brother. Let's have some fun, you know. And I said, you can't even go to college now and feel comfortable. And one of the guys I work with said, hell, my kid's in preschool, and they have to go through exercises on what happens if somebody comes in with a gun in preschool. That angers me. And if we don't start holding more people accountable, I don't know if it's going to change. So you look around the room, we have a tendency always to blame the young people. We always say how much they've changed and what they do and what they are. Now, look in the mirror, fellas, ladies. Us who've changed, us who've gotten more tolerant, including me. And accountability that's how I was raised. And I think there's problems. There's mental health problems. There's going to be more of them. I mean, people have trouble dealing with negative things because they don't get to go through them like I did, you know? I mean, I didn't play in a basketball game in 5th grade because I flunked a test, you know? Now, I'd have just transferred. I would have gone to Mariucci school instead of mine. It's ridiculous. So I have a problem with some of those things. Maybe when I get out of it, I'll become an activist. But I have been overwhelmed by the people that have reached out. Overwhelmed. And I just say to myself, you know, I get them and I think, oh, that was nice, you know, I just said it. And I realize, why did he say it? Probably because they've gone through something there. I know in Seth's case, I talked to him, and it was unbelievable to talk to him about what him and his wife and his daughter went through there. And so scary, and I didn't run into that. I mean, my son was in a car, and he pulled up there. But there's a lot of kids that were in the classroom. I don't know how they go back. You know, I've heard our mental health experts talk about, you know, if parents come back, or maybe, you know, Sunday you gotta go by the places where your classes are, and you gotta figure out how to start feeling comfortable again. I mean, it's stuff that's way above my pay scale and way above my ability to comprehend. But can you imagine that? I'm supposed to take my son by a classroom because of what happened. Feel bad for our generation of kids now, and I don't like everything they do. I don't like the freedoms that everybody gets. But I definitely don't blame them. I look in the mirror and blame us. That's me.
Anything else?
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the game, and I you know what? I really do appreciate, and I said I was going to answer one or two, and I answered all of them because I respect the way you respected me, and, you know, I'm sure y'all wanted to call and, this and that, but, the game will still be the game, and, hopefully it'll make some students here and some students there, sit at a local restaurant or pub, or sit in the dorms, or just be together, be able to cheer or boo, and try to get back to some way of looking at things in a normal way of doing it. But both teams are playing for a lot right now. This season has been like no other. I've never seen 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the middle. That one game could mean this or that, you know. Everybody's looking at tiebreakers. Everybody calls me about tiebreakers, you know. Because if everybody's even, who wins the tiebreakers? Who gets the buys? Who doesn't? It's amazing, but they've got a good team. They've had some tough losses, some 1 and 2 point losses. But they've got a good basketball team that has played awfully well. I thought they had Indiana beat. Wisconsin game was a funny game. I mean, it's kind of the way the year's gone. But I think you're going to have 2 good teams playing their hearts out, and we'll see what happens. So if there's any questions on the game now, I'll take a couple of those. And if not, you got something else.
It's not in the game time, I apologize, but I was curious that if you could recount the process of just learning where all your players were that night, how quickly that process happened, were they together, were they scattered, and just how they spent that night once everything unfolded.
Well, I wanted to go and get them all into the arena, and that was illegal. And then people didn't want anybody leaving the areas, you know, I mean, sort of. And so my guy, Garrett Ringingstool, who's my chief of staff, or I don't know, you know, he's got a lot of titles. He's the guy that takes care of my problems on the phone. Never comes to press conferences, but on the phone. And Garrett got hold of everybody. I mean, he got hold of managers, he got hold of parents. And it was such a bombardment, you know, we were all trying to figure out what was going on. And then finally, when excuse me, when we found out that that they had found who did it, I guess there was a breath of fresh air to say, wow, at least we know that he's not running around campus still. And but we couldn't do anything. So the next morning, I had a meeting at my house because we weren't allowed in. And so I brought all the players over to my house. We had a little something to eat. We talked about the issues. We talked about how we could help. We talked about if you need professional help, we can do that. Like I said, Alan Heller did an unbelievable job of setting us up early that morning. And professional people here were phenomenal. So that made it easier for me because, as they say, you know, there's certain things that there's no book. I've been through a lot of things here, but somehow, some way, they're never quite the same. And so I have no book to tell me how to handle something like that. Thank God. Maybe if there's anything good that's happened over the last 5, 6, 7 years is we've done a good job of getting professional people to help them. But every player was accounted for, and we kind of told them stay put, do this, do that. And I tell you, of all the things that impressed me most, what was it called again? Shelter in place, yeah. I didn't even understand what that meant. But give these kids credit on that, man. From what I heard, they did a phenomenal job. And I'm not sure I would have. I would have wanted to get out, go out. For the most part, they did that. I know my players did it.
If you want to talk about basketball a little bit, how did you get the players to snap back into it today? How hard did you feel like you could get on them, and how did you handle that?
Honestly, you're supposed to say no lie to me. I talk to some of the professional people too, because my personality is, let's get after it. And I was happy to hear that if we did the work on the front end and we got help for the people that needed help and we were upfront in what we said to them and what we do, and that I was given some advice to start gradually pushing them into it. I will say practice today wasn't off the charts, but it was damn good. Compared to yesterday, it was really good. And so that was encouraging. I talked to the players after, you know, not only about that, but about you're gonna have a million traumas in your life. And learning how to deal with those are probably a better education than the one you'll get at any junior high, high school, or college. Because those are real life things. And so we talked about that after practice, and I think they all agreed. And you know, we've had meetings every morning since we're out of school. We've met with them every morning at 9 or 10 o'clock, and I think that's helped. Some of it showed a little film, some of it just to talk. So that's what we did.
I'm wondering, kind of in a way, a two-part question, but how do you keep the focus with everything going on? And what are your concerns, both from that standpoint and then also a basketball standpoint of being on the court?
Yeah, that'll be the hard part, you know. Game could start and we could get off to a great start, or we could lay an egg, you know. I don't know. And how I approach the team then, and that'll be something we'll talk about tomorrow. You know, and what I'm gonna tell them tomorrow is I got a job to do too. And my job is to push you as far as I can push you, and yet understand that each one of you are gonna handle things differently. So help me help you. That's gonna be my message. Help me help you. And I think we're in a good place in that. I think I'll be able to help them and try to be somewhat understanding. And yet, it's a great life lesson, to be very honest with you. Unfortunately, life lessons seem to be always at somebody else's expense. And but I try to talk to them about all the things that are going to happen in their life, whether it be with their mom, their dad, whether it be with their wife someday, or their own kids someday. You know, how would you handle this? Those are the things that I think bring this a little more real. But you know, on the other side of it, we all know, whether it's cancer, whether it's life and death, whether it's this or that, we never understand it till it actually happens to us. It's just the way we are. It's not a bad thing. It's a reality. It never hits home the same way. Did it hit home a little bit more when Stephen called me? It did a little bit, but he wasn't in the classroom. He wasn't this and that, but I think he was a little more traumatized than I thought. Did it when I stood there last night and talked to some of the people. I was at the Rock early, and I mean, there were some people I just couldn't hold it in. I said, did you know somebody? And a couple said yes, and a couple said no. And that was pretty powerful. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting thing. Those first couple of minutes, the timeouts, if Michigan is doing something, that'll be emotional in itself. But I'm going to do what I do. I'm just going to try to handle it the best way I know. And but where I've become a little different is now I meet with people, I talk to people that have been through this more than me. So I'll talk to Seth again, and I'll talk to some other people that have been through it, and how did you handle it? Hopefully it'll help.
I've got one final one back here.
Coach, what does it mean to be able to bring people together through basketball, through the game that you love, when you play? You talked about people meeting in pubs and supporting one another. And
Yeah.
Basketball, aside from the competition, will allow people to come together and to cheer and to feel a slight amount of normalcy, as you said. with the weight of everything that's happening.
You know, I wanted to say that last night. It sounds so selfish to me last night. Like, yeah, you know, that's fine, but somebody lost their brother, and somebody lost their sister, and somebody lost their child, and, oh, that was a difficult part of what I wanted to say, to be very honest with you. But I did see some things. I was, Mariucci was coaching the 49ers. I went out to the game when, the first game after 9/11, it was in New York. And I get chills thinking about it, but I got onto the field in a strange way that I probably shouldn't say, but I was actually kind of an NFL film runner. I had my little bag, and I was there when people went crazy. They went crazy for San Francisco. They went crazy for the Giants. They went crazy as the Black Hawk helicopters. It was the most impressive thing I've ever seen. Went over, and I think it was Rudy Giuliani was there, and it was one of those moments that through athletics, I got to see something that was incredible. And I saw that night, it was a Thursday night game, so there were no other games. And it was like that game brought our country back together, you know? In saying that, I feel guilty because I'm also thinking that would I feel that way if it was my daughter or my son? What I'm hoping is the answer is yes, because we can't do anything about what happened right now, except hopefully do a better job of making sure it doesn't happen again. But we can do something about moving forward, because there's probably a brother or sister of one of those three that has to live. There's a mom and a dad, and hopefully a smile on your face, whether it's a Michigan fan being mad at me or a Michigan State fan being happy. Hopefully it just brings everybody together. I mean, just the outpour I've gotten from some of my Michigan friends, but some of the coaching staff and that, I think tells you everything. You know, there's some things that aren't rivalries. There's some things that are bigger than the game. And the game's going to be really important to me, as it has been for all 28 years I've been here. But there'll be a little asterisk on it. And I'm going to have to do a good job of holding my emotions, their emotions, everybody's emotions. And it'll be another good life lesson. And when it's over, that'll be one of the things we talk about right in the locker room, win or lose. So I appreciate the way you guys have been. It's hard because I struggle to rah, let's go, you know. I really struggle to feel that way unless I can be helpful, you know. When I went to the hospital, I got a call that one of the kids in there was from China, and one of the kids in there was from Lansing, and they were huge basketball fans. And as I was walking in, the nurse grabbed me and she said, "You don't know how excited he is to be here, that you're here." I couldn't comprehend that. But if I brought a smile to his face, God, I do that every day of the year. So I appreciate all of you. I will say this: let's figure out a way to change the world. Let's figure out a way to do a better job. And those of you that have kids, relatives, let's figure out a way to keep their world safer than the one we've been in here in recent